How would you describe him as a student?
I would say that he wasn't particularly different to thousands of other students that I've had contact with during my time at the school. He didn't particularly stand out in any way. As with a number of young people growing up, he did have some issues when he was younger, and they were dealt with through normal school interventions. He was quite successful academically, and he went on to do his A-levels at the school, and the focus was very much on preparing him for life after school and university. And there was never really any indication that he stood out, as some students sometimes do, for good and bad. But he never really stood out from the thousands of students in the school.
You said he had some issues. Can you tell me any more about those? There have been other reports that he was bullied and that he didn't have many friends. Is that something you recognise from your knowledge of his time at the school?
I think it would be fair to say that he had a small group of friends. I recollect that he certainly enjoyed football and he was very passionate about football. I think there are examples or instances of arguments with other boys and students that did lead to allegations of bullying, but they were dealt with through normal school procedures and nothing again stood out that was particularly concerning.
Did he seem like a happy child?
I would say, if I can remember, and I don't remember really clearly, there was nothing there that made me think he was unhappy or depressed. I think he did enjoy a laugh and a joke with his friends. There was no indication he was any different to any other young man growing up. Absolutely nothing.
Did you ever meet his family, or were you familiar with his parents?
I recall meeting his mother, and during my time at the school, I recall both his younger brother and younger sister.
And what do you remember of his siblings?
I would say again, they fitted in very well in the community. Again, nothing particularly stood out for me that made the family stand out. They seemed to want the best for their children. They were ambitious young people wanting to take their place in the world.
When you heard that the man who had been labelled in the press as Jihadi John was Mohammed Emwazi, the student that you knew, what were your thoughts and feelings about that?
When I heard that Mohammed Emwazi was the person named as Jihadi John, I have to say, and I still feel it now, extremely shocked, disturbed by it. It's incomprehensible to me that a young person who appeared to have such a positive route into adult life could become the monster that he appears to have become today. And I keep asking myself over and over again, why? How did this happen? What could possibly have changed in his life to have taken him down this path? And I'm not sure we will ever know the answer. And for me, it's about looking at what lessons we can learn from this going forward. But I don't have the answers, and it's very, very upsetting.
Were there any concerns about the radicalisation of pupils whilst you were at the school?
No, none whatsoever. We worked really hard on promoting citizenship, values of family ethos, family values when it comes to being a citizen of the school community, what it means to be a citizen in Britain. And we spent a lot of time trying to develop that culture within the school. And we know from Ofsted inspections that those elements of the school were considered outstanding, as were other aspects at the school. So we worked exceptionally hard at that.
There are reports that there are other pupils from the school who've also gone to fight in Syria. Do you think that there may be something that was overlooked, or do you think that it's a coincidence that maybe radicalisation happened later?
It must be a coincidence. Certainly, one of the names was a young man that was a few years older than Mohammed Emwazi. I don't actually remember him particularly. I may not have been at the school at the time. The other young man that's been named is somebody that joined the school quite late. He actually came from another local school, and we had taken him in to try and support him. And he was also at the school for a couple of years, so I think it's a coincidence. I think there are links. The links are more likely to be from outside the school community rather than inside the school community.
There's a lot of focus on that part of London, North West London, West London, and the problem of radicalisation there. From your time in the school, did you get a sense that there was this extremism in the community at large?
No, because had anything been visible, we would have addressed it. If we had picked up in any way that there were things going on, it's not something that anybody would leave. and it's certainly not something that educators would brush under the carpet. It would be immoral if we did something like that. We had very good relationships with our students, and had anything like that been raised, as a school we would have responded to that immediately. I cannot recall any mention at the time of anything about radicalisation. And I also think that today we have the impact of social media. It's a world that perhaps has allowed communication and a community to build up that sits outside what goes on in schools and in families, and in a way that we older people perhaps don't understand.